Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. Y'all, we got two real big news stories this week. We're going to talk about them. We have the documents that UMG filed, Universal Music Group, filed to dismiss the case that Drake filed against them. To summarize 32 pages, they're like, this is some bullshit. It's such a read. It literally, and then also in like the Dorian Corey, Paris is Burning kind of read. I love when lawyers get good and greasy. And then the other thing we need to talk about is obviously Jonathan Majors. Rolling Stone released an audio tape where it appears to be him and his ex-girlfriend, the one that he was just in court with, the British lady, the blonde. I'm going to go ahead and guess that she recorded the audio, and either she or her lawyer or some representative, somebody got a hold of the audio and gave it to Rolling Stone, and Rolling Stone dropped it yesterday. When does his movie come out again? Jonathan Majors? He's been on a redemption tour. There was a story in The Hollywood Reporter last week, and it's the first time he's spoken to press since he was sentenced. Remember, he did that, I want to say it was an ABC interview before he was actually sentenced. He'd been found guilty, but before he was sentenced. But he hasn't said anything for the last year that he's been gallivanting around with Meagan, his now fiance, Meagan Good. But that was his first interview. And the headline for the story, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, was something about like his redemption, his comeback. It came out late last week, and we only do the podcast once a week now. So I was prepared to talk about that story and have it be the focal point of this episode and raise the question, are we ready for Jonathan Majors' comeback? He's got this indie film coming out that people have been buzzing about. There have been many criticisms of Jonathan Majors. Nobody has ever criticized that he is an amazing actor. Much in the same way that people don't criticize R. Kelly for being, a songwriting musical genius. You're also a predator. Two things can be true. But the question was, are we ready to receive Jonathan Majors again? And it seemed to be leaning toward yes, until this audio came out. There's been a lot of talk about, this could be AI. Could be, could not be. I also just think that, if somebody accused me of strangling a woman and then banging her head into a marble floor, that I would release the day of, but if not within 24 hours, strongly denying the allegations and threatening to sue for defamation. I would want to put on record that, no, I did not do that. Absolutely not. The same way that Jay-Z came out very, very clearly about the allegations against him. I guess we need to talk about that too, because there's also audio of his accuser saying that she was persuaded by her lawyer to name Jay-Z and include him in the melee of that court case. We'll add that to our list of topics. But Jay-Z came out swinging from gate and was like, absolutely, I did not do this. This is some bullshit. I've had no incidents of assault or rape of anyone, but certainly not a minor. It was a very strong statement. It wasn't vetted. We talked about this at the time, how it didn't seem like Jay-Z went through his publicist. He just fired off something quick from notes and had it formatted. We criticized that at the time. But also, Jay-Z was like, fuck no, I didn't do this. I think it's kind of telling that there's an allegation that you strangled a woman and banged her head into a marble floor, and you have no response to that within 24 hours. That's a lot. That's not what we're talking about first. We're talking about this UMG motion in response to Drake's lawsuit. We talked about this prior to, that Drake had sued his own record label, accusing them basically of inflating the numbers for Not Like Us. He was like, y'all manipulated the streams, y'all did some special marketing, promotion. There's no possible way this song could be as popular as it appears to be. UMG must have done some finagling. And then also he pointed out, my contract was up. I had to renegotiate with them. So they were doing everything they could to destroy my brand so they wouldn't have to pay me the maximum rate for a new contract. He's like, this is all manipulation by UMG. To which point people pointed out and was like, actually, no, everybody really is sitting around playing this song on repeat. The streams really are what they appear to be. That's not manipulation. That's really everyone really, really, really likes this song. It's catchy as fuck. So I have in front of me, this is a memorandum submitted on behalf of UMG Recordings in support of its motion to dismiss. AKA, Drake done went and filed this stupid lawsuit, and it's a waste of our damn time. So let's throw this out, and here are all the reasons why. We got to get to page 7, 7 of 32, before we actually get into, what all had happened was. UMG starts out even before the introduction. They note that the plaintiff, Aubrey Drake Graham, is, quote, one of the most successful recording artists of all time. True. He lost a rap battle that he provoked and in which he willingly participated. Instead of accepting the loss like the unbothered rap artist he often claims to be, he has sued his own record label in a misguided attempt to salve his wounds. Plaintiff's complaint is utterly without merit and should be dismissed with prejudice. That's how we coming out the gate. This is the introduction, the facts. Sometimes we go over documents here. I'm reading them in real time as I'm speaking with you. I've already read this. Here are some facts we can all agree on. Spring 2024, almost a year ago, May 4, 2024, is when Not Like Us dropped. So we close, but not quite. It says 2 of the most popular recording artists in the world agreed. Kendrick Lamar, Aubrey Drake Graham engaged in a high-profile rap battle. Over the course of approximately 2 months, they exchanged increasingly vitriolic and incendiary diss tracks, sometimes responding within hours of each other. Drake encouraged the feud, i.e., he fucked around. For example, when he felt that Lamar was taking too long to respond, Drake released a second recording in which he goaded Lamar to continue the public rap battle. Lamar did just that, and collectively, Drake and Lamar released a total of 9 tracks taking aim at each other. I didn't realize it was 9. Multiple commentators declared Lamar to be the winner of the battle. I know all of this to be true. Now they go on to speak about the success of Not Like Us. Individually, I knew these certain things, but seeing it all put together like this, I'm like, this is like the little diss track that could. Ether could never, and in fact did not. It says, Not Like Us, the penultimate track in the feud, is the subject of the complaint. Not Like Us was a massive commercial and artistic success. The record was the best-selling rap recording of 2024 and won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year. And the accompanying music video won the Grammy Award for Best Music Video. The song Not Like Us won the Grammy Award for Song of the Year and has become a ubiquitous cultural phenomenon. Among other things, Lamar performed the song at the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show to a record audience, and Saturday Night Live parodied it in its recent 50th anniversary special. Not Like Us, like all of the recordings in the feud between Drake and Lamar, and like the many notorious diss tracks throughout rap's history, consist of a series of hyperbolic insults. Drake has been pleased to use UMG's platform to promote tracks leveling similarly incendiary attacks against Lamar, including, most significantly, that Lamar engaged in domestic abuse. I brought this up before. It's like, you can't be mad at him for calling you a pedophile when you were sitting up here saying that he beat his woman and that one of Lamar's business partners and managers is the true father of Lamar's son. I can't believe this messy shit got into a lawsuit, but here we are, nevertheless. But now, after losing the rap battle, how many times they gonna say this? Many. Drake claims that Not Like Us is defamatory. It is not. While the complaint focuses almost entirely on Not Like Us, it disregards the other Drake and Lamar diss tracks that surrounded Not Like Us, as well as the conventions of the diss track genre, and thus critically ignores the context of the dispute. Assessed in context, as it must be, Not Like Us clearly conveys non-actionable opinion and rhetorical hyperbole. The motion goes on to point out Drake alleges that Not Like Us constitutes second-degree harassment, but sues under a criminal statute that does not proscribe speech and has no private right of action. Translation, your lawyers is trash, son. Finally, Drake claims that UMG's promotion of Not Like Us violates New York general business law, but fails to allege any of the elements of that claim, i.e., your lawyers is fugazi. They also go on to talk about Drake's history with how lyrics in rap songs should be treated in a court of law. Less than 3 years ago, Drake himself signed a public petition criticizing the trend of prosecutors using artists' creative expression against them by treating rap lyrics as literal fact. So basically, the shit you mad about is the shit you said 3 years ago that nobody should be mad about, at least legally. Yet, you filed this lawsuit. Translation, is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? The motion continues. Drake was right then and is wrong now. The complainant's unjustified claims against UMG are no more than Drake's attempt to save face for his unsuccessful rap battle with Lamar. I told you, over and over and over, they're like, this petty nigga just filed this shit because he lost the rap battle. He can't beef and win with Kendrick, so now he's trying to beef with us, trying to get some control around something. There's validity there. So now more facts. We're on page 9. We are UMG. This is what we do. Record, distribute, publish, third-party licensing, blah, blah, blah. Drake is an internationally known rap artist. He's been signed with us since 2009. The contract has been hugely successful. He's one of the best-selling music artists of all time with over 170 million albums sold. I had no idea Drake sold that many albums. Not surprised. I just didn't know it was that number. He's received a series of awards and accolades, including Billboard Music's Artist of the Decade. Good for him. Congratulations. UMG also represents Lamar through UMG's Interscope division. Lamar is a highly successful rap artist in his own right. Y'all not gonna mention that man has a Pulitzer? Y'all can't mention his Pulitzer? No? Okay. Y'all can't talk about how many albums he sold? They did already mention that he has like a boatload of Grammys. Kendrick got like 22 Grammys. That's not the point. The point is Drake and Lamar, they keep saying Lamar. I may never call this man Lamar. I just call him Kendrick. Drake and Kendrick get into this feud. The origin traces back more than a decade. I cannot believe like the history of a rap beef is literally in a lawsuit or a motion to dismiss, but a legal document. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's this is not what Biggie meant when he was like, I never thought hip hop would take it this far. It says the artist feud traces back more than a decade, but broke into the public domain in early 2024. It says their feud was not unique in the world of rap. Agreed. There's always been diss tracks. Agreed. They start talking about the beef between Roxanne Shante and UTFO, Nas and Jay-Z, Lil' Kim and Foxy, Megan and Nicki. They're just like, this is more of the same. And they say also that Drake has been in other feuds, most notably with Pusha T and Meek Mill. They give the history of this specific like on wax beef with Drake and Kendrick and then also J. Cole. We talked about all of this back when it happened, but as a refresher, and because it's now in a legal document, like it's official, October 2023, first-person shooter, J. Cole rapped that he, Drake, and Lamar were the big three, to which Kendrick responded the following year and was like, ain't no big three, there's just big me. So basically like, y'all niggas not on my level. And then Drake responded in April 2024 with push-ups, taking aim at Kendrick. He made fun of his height, the size of his feet. I gave you your first number one. I'm summarizing, the lyrics included. Drake put that song out and Kendrick didn't respond. And then that's when he made the song. Remember that awful song he made where he used AI so he could sound like Snoop and Tupac and it just pissed everybody off? Not even just the whole West Coast, but just like everybody. Like what are you doing? Kendrick finally responds. He says, you're not a rap artist. You're a scam artist. You're just trying to get accepted. I make music that electrifies. You make music that pacifies. He insults the way Drake raises his son. Remember, he was hiding a child? Pusha T said that with his full chest. Okay. Drake responded 14 hours later. He clowns Kendrick. He says, you're not authentic. You're just acting like an activist. He says Kendrick cheats on his fiance. I remember when this happened. This killed me. He said, you proposed in 2015, but you didn't get married yet. I was like, men are calling each other eternal fiancés? He said, I guess this wedding ain't happening. This is the time when he alleges, we spoke about this earlier, when he says Kendrick's business partner and manager is the father of one of Kendrick's children. And then also, this is the same track. This is where shit gets out of hand, where he alleges that Kendrick had beat on his fiance and mother of his children. Kendrick responded to this with back-to-back tracks. One of them was Meet the Grams. That was the one, like, he went through, like, person by person. He talked to Drake's mama, Drake's father, and Drake's son, and was like, basically, when you grow up and you need a real daddy, call me because I know your father ain't shit. And then told his parents, like, I know how disappointed you must be in him because your son is a failure. It was psychologically brutal. And I was like, good God, this ain't even about me or to my parents. And my chest hurts. Like, God damn. And then the other song was Not Like Us. Meet the Grams got overshadowed when Not Like Us dropped. Meet the Grams was the one that I was like, God damn, keep them apart. They can't be in the same room because you can't say that to people without getting punched in the face or shot in the face. Not Like Us is the one, obviously, that took off. Not that I need to quote anything from Not Like Us to you, because even my mom knows the lyrics. Not all the lyrics. She knows the important ones. My mom knows A minor. She knows when to sing it. So does my dad. They play it at basketball games all the time. It's a cultural phenomenon. It's more than just a song now. Say, Drake, I hear you like 'em young. Certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Wah, 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 wah. Shit never gets old. The lawsuit points out that Drake actually responded to Not Like Us. Like, in theory, I kind of remember this. I can't actually remember anything about the song. The Heart Part 6, reading some of the lyrics here, and it's like really gully. Another one of those, like, this is more than just on wax at this point. They need a mediation, but also only if they go through metal detectors first. They need a sit down with a neutral party who can guarantee everybody's safety. An intermediary, I think that might be the word that I'm looking for. In Drake's response, he talks about Kendrick's fiance, like, why isn't she denying the allegations? Why is she following your manager but not you? Why is your manager leaving heart emojis under pics of your child? He says, if Dave really fucked your girl and got her pregnant, talk about breeding resentment. Doesn't really work for me as a lyric, but as an actual line, like if that was in a novel, that's witty. I don't like it as a lyric, but I acknowledge the wit of it all. He talks again about Kendrick being a woman beater. He denies, which I do think is important. He says, only fucking with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I'd never look twice at a teenager. Except you did. Because the reason that people keep calling Drake a pedophile, which also comes up in this legal document, because UMG is gully as fuck, is because the teenager reflecting back was like, oh yeah, like Drake and I used to text and we would talk about boys and like, you know, we were like besties and blah, blah, blah. And she was like 14 and he was like either in his late 20s, early 30s and was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you texting a child? Ick, nigga. Hence why certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Wah, 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 wah. Once again, in this portion, they're talking about the success of Not Like Us. And they mention, this is what, the third time in this document? We've only been reading 3 pages at this point. It says Lamar is widely perceived to have won the rap feud. And then they start noting all these reputable publications that declared Kendrick the winner, such as The New Yorker, who asked, quote, has there ever been a clear loser as Drake? And the New York Times noting, quote, Lamar unofficially winning a high-profile diss war with Drake. Oh, here's where we get into the success of Not Like Us. Remember before I was like, oh, they just skipped over it. Here's where they get into it. It says, Not Like Us has also been a massive commercial and artistic success. It has been heard or viewed nearly 6 billion with the B, 6 billion times, and was the best-selling rap song of 2024. It set multiple records, including most single-day streams for a rap song in the U.S. It is the fastest song to reach 300 million Spotify streams. It is the most streamed song in a 7-day period, 96 million streams. Within the first week of its release, Not Like Us debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ranked first on YouTube's weekly top music videos chart from July 4th to August 8th. So like a month and change. It has maintained its popularity. On October 7th, 2024, again, song dropped in May, Billboard reported that the recording had reached 45.4 million in total audience impressions. It has also been used in over 1.3 million videos on TikTok. Rolling Stone deemed it the biggest moment in music this year. Rolling Stone is on it right now, are they not? The song, recording, and video of Not Like Us were collectively nominated for 5 Grammy Awards, as voted on by over 13,000 music industry peers, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, and Best Music Video, and won in all 5 categories. The next couple pages, UMG is explaining what grounds they have to ask for a dismissal, listing a bunch of court cases, legal precedents. They note that Drake fails to state a claim for defamation. It says, quote, Drake, who had no concerns using UMG's platform to publish slurs about Lamar during their rap feud, now claims that Not Like Us is defamatory. It's like you mad Kendrick said some shit about you, but you feel it's okay to say the things that you said about Kendrick. Doesn't add up. And then also the alleged defamatory material is non-actionable opinion and rhetorical hyperbole. Basically, this is what came up before, that what Drake is suing for, he's included nothing in his documents that prove that UMG did something wrong. Also, he's leaving out a bunch of context. Here's the part that gets me. This is page 22. So I can't believe it's an illegal document. It says facts and criticism concerning Drake's relationship with minors predate Not Like Us and have been widely reported. It notes that Not Like Us is, quote, indicting Drake for years of rumors and speculations around his misbehavior around minors. Millie Bobby Brown is one of the things that most people are aware of when it comes to Drake and the rumors around him. She talked about texting with Drake when she was, a minor. They also note that Drake himself called on Kendrick to invoke these allegations in tailor-made freestyle. This is the one where he used the voices of Tupac and Snoop. In the Tupac voice, he encourages Kendrick that he should talk about Drake liking young girls. And then also in the Heart Part 6, we just talked about this, that Drake notes what Kendrick talked about in Not Like Us, referring to the Millie Bobby Brown controversy, i.e. certified pedophile, i.e. a minor. And Drake says, quote, this Epstein angle was the shit I expected, only fucking with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I'd never look twice at no teenager. The document concludes, Drake himself understands that Lamar's lyrics refer solely to well-known issues. Taken together, reading from the document, quoting from the document, it says, with the fact that Not Like Us was released in the context of a combative and vitriolic rap diss battle, it would be obvious to even the casual observer that Not Like Us is not to be taken as an actual factual assessment. In sum, the tone and broader context in which Not Like Us was released makes plain that the recording, video, and album cover, one of Kendrick's album covers, was an aerial shot of Drake's mansion with tags indicating that there were convicted child predators. Because, they have to identify themselves when they move into a neighborhood. It was something like that. So UMG is saying here that all of this was rhetorical hyperbole and opinion, not based on anything beyond controversies that have been widely acknowledged, including by Drake himself. So because of all that, Drake fails to state an actionable claim for defamation. They go on to continue. He cannot say, which he tried to, Drake cannot allege that UMG acted with malice. He says Drake has not alleged any specific facts plausibly evidencing in a clear and convincing manner that anyone at UMG intended to convey or indeed believed that the public would understand Not Like Us as conveying anything other than what it was, an incendiary diss track. Let's say Drake fails to state a claim for harassment in the second degree, all things that Drake sued for. This is what we were talking about earlier. Drake asserts that UMG had an intent to devalue Drake's music and brand in order to gain leverage in negotiations. They acknowledge, okay, if that's how he feels, that's fine, but that's not an intent to harass Drake. And furthermore, this allegation is speculative and illogical. Drake does not even attempt to explain how a contract with Drake would be more profitable for UMG if Drake was devalued. After all, any decreased leverage would presumably come from decreased revenues and thus decreased profits. So if you ain't making good money, we ain't making good money. Why would we want to not make good money? It continues. Moreover, Drake's allegations are contradicted by his allegations that UMG had the opposite incentive with respect to re-signing Lamar. Reading further down on 21, it's basically just UMG eviscerating Drake. Basically, everything you allege is some bullshit. It doesn't make sense. You and your lawyer are both trash, and you're wasting our time with this bullshit. A lot of it is written in legalese, but that's kind of the summary. You brought up all these claims in this lawsuit, and none of them make any goddamn sense. Oh, here's a good one. It says the centerpiece of Drake's claim was the utterly false assertion that UMG used bots to stream. So we were talking about UMG manipulating the numbers to make Not Like Us more popular, to which they're like, no. It says Drake based this theory on the claim that an anonymous individual alleged on a Twitch stream that Kendrick Lamar's label, i.e. Interscope, paid him via third parties to use bots to achieve 30 million streams on Spotify in the initial days following Not Like Us's release. It says this claim is then directly refuted by the very source that Drake cites. In the Twitch stream, the anonymous speaker, already a dubious source, claims that he was hired by Anthony Sala, who is Kendrick Lamar's manager. UMG Interscope are never even accused. It says critically, after UMG notified Drake's counsel of this falsity of Drake's allegation via a letter and accompanying motion, Drake conceded the falsity and agreed to withdraw and correct this meritless allegation. They continue, despite this concession, Drake has refused to actually amend the complaint to withdraw. It says what is left on the claim after subtracting the bogus stream manipulation theory is equally spurious. I love spurious as a word. People don't use it enough. It says the remaining allegations are made on information and belief. What we had heard was said was without stating the basis therefore. So basically people are saying this, what had happened was, but they're not giving a clear source. And what they're referring to is Drake said he received information that UMG engaged in a classic pay-for-play scheme by paying to increase the airplay of Not Like Us on the radio. He's not said where that information came from. He also says UMG employed a similar scheme by paying social media influencers to promote and endorse the recording and video of Not Like Us. So he says it, but he's not saying where he got it from. He put it in the lawsuit, but nobody's proved where this came from. So they're like, it's not true and you have no proof. So like either put up proof or shut the fuck up. There's more details to this. I'm on page 31 now. It says, for all the foregoing reasons, plaintiff's complaint should be dismissed without prejudice. This was just filed yesterday, March 17th. I'm recording this on Tuesday, March 18th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. So as of right now, this case has not been dismissed. I don't know enough about the law to guess whether it will be dismissed or not. We should have called our good friend, Simone Redwine, friend in my head. I ran into her at CBC last September. She was at a party and I was like completely giddy, but then also like, hey girl, hey, because like, you know, she's friends in my head, but then also had to check myself and be like, you do not know this woman. You do not know this woman. We have friends in common. A good friend in Philly hit me and was like, Simone said she met you. She said she wanted to come on the show and I want her to come on the show. And this probably would have been a great episode because we're talking about so much legal shit. There'll be more to come. There's this alleged Diddy trial. I swear up and down this trial ain't happening, but I said that online the other day, and I told y'all one of my friends is testifying. Wait, is that public knowledge? I'm not sure that's public knowledge. But I did say something the other day, which I've been saying for a very long time now, how I don't think this Diddy trial is going to happen. And my friend, who has a vested interest in the case. Let's say that. I think that's safe. Hit me with a little bit of bass on her voice. And she was like, I don't know why you or anybody else would say that. And she was like, as of right now, like we are preparing for a trial. And she's like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people are not aware of. But she's like, absolutely, there should be a trial and absolutely he should be held accountable. And hey. When I say that this case is never going to trial, in no way do I mean that I think Diddy is not guilty or Diddy should not be punished or the trial should not happen. I just don't think there's a strong likelihood of it. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, he's currently still mayor, and his indictment has not been dismissed yet, despite the attempts by the Trump administration to get it dismissed. A judge has asked a lawyer to look into it and make the argument for why it should not be dismissed. He's willing to hear an argument about it. However, if the Justice Department can get Eric Adams' indictments removed, Diddy's next. All they need is the precedent that they're able to do it for Eric Adams, and they're going to do it for everybody they want to from there. And some people are like, well, why Diddy? Diddy wasn't the biggest fan of Trump. Trump has no investment in getting Diddy out. It's my theory. And I don't really have many conspiracy theories. That's not really my thing, but this one I stand strong on. It's not about Diddy per se. It's the message that it sends to women and men that you can do whatever you want to women and there's no consequence for it. It's the biggest, loudest way to send that message. Also, somebody else pointed this out to me. I totally forgot about this. And they were like, actually, the most compelling reason is that when Elon was buying Twitter, Diddy is a major investor. He gave like $40 million to Elon. So like they're cuddly and cute. Elon is running the country. Why wouldn't Elon help out his homie who literally invested, put up 40 mil when he needed it to buy X? So yeah, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that. I know it to be fact, but look it up because I say things like this and people don't always believe me. But I read about it on The Hollywood Reporter. It's also on Reuters. It's also on Yahoo Finance. It's also on Fortune. But yeah, Diddy was a contributor and is in bed with Elon, who is currently, running the country. Diddy ain't going to trial. I don't say it to upset you. I don't say it to be flippant. I just say it to to say what I believe to be true. All right, Hollywood Reporter, let's get to it. We already on the site. Jonathan Majors was the cover. Full transparency, I used to write for them. Not that there's any overlap in me reading from the story. I just like to be transparent. I only wrote for them once. The Damson Idris story, it was a feature, but it wasn't a cover. I only do features and covers, so it's a whole separate thing. What do we have here? Jonathan Majors speaks out for first time about childhood abuse, Marvel firing, and more. Exclusive cover story. New interview, The Hollywood Reporter. When did this drop? It was last week. Thursday, Friday? One of those. Doesn't have a date on the story. But let's see. What are we getting into? Jonathan Majors' moment of truth. The photography is nice. I can't believe I ever thought he was attractive. I did. I can't deny that I did. March 14th is when it came out. Rebecca Keegan is the journalist. I think the way he presented himself was a total farce. Jesus Christ. But the way he presented himself is this, Renaissance man. Like, he was thoughtful and he was soft and he was a feminist and he read and he said the right things and he had an amazing body and he had, I think we really loved him from his role. Once you analyze his role in Lovecraft, though, it kind of doesn't shake out the way it should. He played this great character, was an upstanding guy, and people just, sort of assumed that he was like his role, which I think, not even assumed, I think he directly played into in his interviews and such. Remember the Ebony magazine cover? It was a pink cover. I want to say it was for Valentine's Day, and he was like throwing out roses because they did those video covers. I need to go back to that. That was fun until it wasn't. Oh dear. The writer of the story reached out to me. I said something about some of the pictures. I thought like his lips were pursed. And so she was like, no, that's not, like, we didn't tell him to purse his lips. Like, that's how he holds his mouth. And I was like, it's giving pursing to me. And she's like, we didn't tell him to do that. And I was like, okay, calm down. It's all right. It's all right. This was all over text. I'm interpreting tone. But she was very adamant. She was like, we did not tell him to do that. Like, he did that with his own mouth because like that's his face. And I was like, is it? Is that his face? No, it's irrelevant. I'm just giving you context for the times. Let's go through this Hollywood Reporter piece. I've actually read it. I read it when it first came out, and I was like, yep, we're going to talk about that next week for sure. This is how Jonathan Majors found out that he was dropped from Marvel. December 2023, he had just been convicted by a jury of 1 count of misdemeanor third-degree assault and 1 count of second-degree harassment of his ex-girlfriend. He and his legal team had piled into a black Chevy Suburban as they were pulling away from the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. It was quiet inside the car. Majors was sitting in the back seat. He says a member of his legal team turned around from the front seat and delivered the next piece of news. He goes, I'm just going to tell you now. That way you're not surprised and you can start processing it. They fired you. Marvel fired you. Now, I'm reading directly from the article. It says, before his arrest that March, that case, it took March to December for that case. I mean, it did take forever. Many people pointed out at the time, like, this is the kind of case that's usually settled out of court, but he insisted on going to court. He thought he was going to get a not guilty verdict. Otherwise, this whole case could have gone away like relatively quickly, as opposed to being drawn out over several months, which many people pointed out that his career probably took more of a beating than it needed to over this kind of incident, as opposed to just getting it out the way very quickly. If he pled out, he would have been guilty, but the story wouldn't have dragged out for months and months and months and months, which, hurt his reputation and his branding. But it says, before his arrest in March, Majors was fresh off the Warner Brothers box office hit Creed 3, the Marvel movie Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and an Emmy nomination for the HBO series Lovecraft Country. He seemed poised to explode professionally, cast as the MCU's new villain, Kang the Conqueror, the heir apparent to Thanos. Majors was on track to make life-changing money and to lead 2026's Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. He was also set to be the subject of a well-financed Oscar campaign for the indie film Magazine Dreams. All of that evaporated when a jury determined that Majors was responsible for a cut behind his ex-girlfriend's ear and a fractured finger, and a judge later sentenced him to probation and a 52-week domestic violence intervention program. He was dropped by his manager and his publicity firm. They said his agent remained with him, still represents him to this day. Major said of this period of time, he said, there were days when I was like, is this real? It's a heartbreak like I've never experienced. And it just compounded and compounded. Still reading directly from the article, it says Major's story provokes a range of reactions. Anger from survivors of domestic violence, protectiveness from his friends and colleagues, confusion from fans. The actor's contested narrative is about to enter its next act. Well, it was when this story was written. This dropped on the 14th. The audio dropped on the 17th. Friday, this story about his redemption drops in The Hollywood Reporter, and then Rolling Stone drops the audio of him admitting to strangling his ex-girlfriend, the same ex-girlfriend from this case that blew everything up. The British blonde, Grace, her. I'm going to go ahead and assume that she likely recorded the confession of him saying he aggressed her. I'm familiar with the term. I've never actually seen anybody use it. Like it's something that comes up when you're like reading early works from the early 1900s. Nobody writes fucking aggressed, much less says it out loud. But he's a fancy Yale nigga who likes his women to behave like Coretta Scott King. I'm not always sure that he knows that we're in the 21st century. Nevertheless, we are. Still reading on The Hollywood Reporter, it says, in a long and emotional interview in February and a follow-up interview in March, Majors, who had not sat down with a journalist since he was sentenced in April 2024, talked for the first time about the aftermath of the trial, about the childhood sexual abuse that he says led to depression as an adult, and about what his life looks like now. He says he is unable to comment directly on Jabari's allegations of domestic violence. THR notes that she brought a civil suit against him and they settled, which presumably limits what either party can say about the case. It says still, his position frustrates those who followed his trial and want a full apology, including at least one ex-girlfriend who spoke to THR. Major says he does feel responsible for the direction of his life. So some accountability, but not a confession. This is a direct quote from him. He says, at some point, there has to be accountability for writing your own story. Am I going to fall into that narrative of falling apart, of self-destruction? Have a struggle, blame the world. Have a struggle, hate yourself. Have a struggle, deny everything. None of those narratives is beneficial. It says instead, Major says his strategy as he builds a new life post-trial is to have a struggle, learn, metabolize, grow. THR says in addition to speaking to Majors, this article is also based on interviews with 19 others, most speaking on the record about their experiences with the actor. It says whether Hollywood will take Majors back is an open question and will depend in part on whether audiences show up for Magazine Dreams. I would guess that after that most recent audio tape, not so much. THR notes that many high-profile people who have worked with Majors are advocating for him, including Whoopi Goldberg. She appeared with Majors in his first screen role, the TV miniseries called When We Rise. And she also works with his fiancée, Meagan Good, on the Amazon Prime series Harlem, which just aired its third season. Whoopi says of Majors, he was arrested, he went to court, he did what he was supposed to do. I'm not sure what else there is. So, pause. We're going to have to do that a lot reading this article. One of the reasons, and I've said this many times before, and I stick to it very wholeheartedly, I don't advocate for anybody other than myself. For sure, not for men. I don't publicly defend men. Like, I don't like to hear it. I hope it didn't happen. Say it ain't so. But going out and like vouching for somebody, like, oh, you don't get to say sorry these days. And, he's a good person. And then like Whoopi went and said this shit. She's on record supporting him on a Friday. And then Monday, there's audio of him confessing to choking out a chick and banging her head on a marble floor. Now you look crazy right along with him. Now, Whoopi Goldberg don't give a fuck what we think. She don't care about being no pick me. She don't care about being on the wrong side of history. She don't care about none of that. We know. And still, her good name ain't have to be caught up in this bullshit. But she out here caping for a nigga. And now she look crazy. That's why I keep my mouth shut. I hope it didn't happen. Say it ain't so. You're never really sure about anybody but yourself. I know for certain I didn't bang nobody's head on the floor. I know for certain I ain't choked nobody out. As opposed to Jonathan Majors. How many people have accused you of doing the same shit? People do still defend him, though. But the defense is not like he would never, because he's a man of such outstanding character. It's more like these white actors be beating on they women and they still get to work. Why can't he work? I was like, yo, that's a trash defense. I was about to say my dude, but I've also seen it come from so many women. I'm like, who is beating on you that you think this is acceptable? They reached out to Michael B. Jordan. Jonathan Majors co-starred with him in Creed 3. They were trying to recreate the friendship that Michael B. Jordan had with Chadwick Boseman. They had a real bromance going on. Jonathan Majors ain't no Chadwick. He a good actor. But in terms of like upstandingness, he ain't no Chadwick. He ain't my king. They tried to recreate it, and as soon as that story hit, they had pictures all over the place. Remember they presented at the Oscars together? He was up and down Michael B. Jordan's timeline on social media until that story hit about the domestic violence. All them pictures was gone the next day. But the writer reached out to Michael B. Jordan. They said, hey, Michael B. That's what the white girls call him in L.A., Michael B. They reached out to him and they said, would you work with Jonathan Majors again? And so he responded via email. He said, I would love to make Creed 4 together, among other projects. And Michael B. Jordan ain't been involved in a bunch of shit. A little shit. Like him dating white girls, him dating Lori, whatever happened with them. But that's not scandal. He ain't been involved with no shit. But this Jonathan Majors thing, he let that shit cook for a year. Didn't say much of anything. His GQ article, they asked him about it. And he was like, oh, it was a tough situation. He's a great actor. I wished him the best. Like very kept it generic. But in this one, he was like, yeah, I would love to work with him again. Let's do more projects together. That was on Friday. On Monday, audio. Now your good name associated with this bullshit. Again, I see Michael McConaughey. They asked him, and I was like, how'd he get in it? But apparently Jonathan Majors co-starred with him. Sony crime drama, White Boy Rick. Vaguely remember this. Did not see it. Just remember the title because it stands out. I'm assuming it's about a drug dealer. That's just my guess based on the title. Matthew McConaughey said of Jonathan Majors, quote, I've known and know him. That's a lot of claiming. As someone who is continuously striving to improve as a human, a man, and an actor. I believe in him. See somebody else, good name, wrapped up in some shit. But, says Mara Hooper, one of two of Major's ex-girlfriends who gave a pretrial statement to prosecutors in the Jabari case. That's the blonde British ex. She said she isn't sold on Major's comeback. She said, quote, I don't really care that his movie is coming out. What do you get at the end of a 52-week domestic violence course? Do the victims get a debrief? How could I know if he's changed? I don't see redemption happening here. Now we get into a little backstory about Jonathan Majors' life. Says he grew up in Dallas, outside Dallas. People in Dallas are very sensitive about what's inside Dallas versus what's outside Dallas. I guess everybody in major city is, because DC's like that. Are you from DC? Or are you from Maryland or Virginia? Are you actually from D.C., where your grandma stayed? It's important. He grew up outside Dallas, raised by his mother, a pastor with whom he is still close. His father, a classic pianist, was in the Air Force. He left when Majors was 8. And Majors did not see him again until he was in college. He says he was the best dad until he wasn't. And when he wasn't, he was gone. Majors says that after his trial, in addition to the domestic violence program, he underwent therapy and he re-engaged with his pastor. And as a result, began to unpack childhood traumas he had not confronted before. He says he dealt with sexual abuse from both men and women from the time he was 9. He says the abuse was from, quote, people who are supposed to look after you in the absence of a father. I was fucked up. He said he did not tell his mother about the abuse until recently. He says she apologized for not being able to protect him. And he told her, it's not even an issue. I just want you to know. And now we can all get busy and continue to connect and grow and learn from it because it's something that was in our family. Major says that processing the abuse has led to more self-knowledge about his behavior in relationships. He says there are no excuses, but by getting help, you begin to understand things about yourself. His mother, who had a master's degree in divinity, was selling everything from coffins at a funeral parlor to her own blood plasma to pay the bills. He was kicked out of high school for fighting, fights that often started because he or his siblings were being bullied. He says, quote, we looked poor. We were pretty nomadic, going from school to school, place to place. I had a big nose. Guys would pick on me. And I was, for a long time, the outsider. He said there were teachers who invested in his talent, and he eventually found his way into theater, a different, healthier channel for his emotions. He says, I never had a moment where I went, I want to be a movie star. But I had the moment that I was like, I'm going to act for the rest of my life. And I'm going to be the best I can be at this. I'm going to throw everything into it. And I have. THR notes, for the many strong opinions about Major's off-screen life, Hollywood does agree on one thing, the quality of his acting. Scrolling, there's a picture of him. He's showing off his tattoo. He's tattooed Rebirth on the side of his neck. It's an unremarkable tattoo. It's just Rebirth in cursive. Then it talks about the night, March 2023, where he and the British blonde, Grace, got into argument, situation, whatever that was. The situation that resulted in a guilty verdict of him being responsible for her injuries. They went to a play at the Brooklyn Academy of Music and then had dinner. They were in the back seat of a chauffeured Escalade crossing the bridge. A text popped up that said, "Oh, how I wish I was kissing you." I'm convinced that was a text from Meagan Good based on nothing. And I thought it would explain why Meagan, who was in good Hollywood standing and good Black people standing, decided to take up with him when he's in the middle of a trial for abusing his ex-girlfriend. Like literally hard launched their relationship by showing up to court for a case in which he was accused of beating his ex. Of all the times and all the places, we talked about this when it happened. I'm not going to belabor the point, but that shit just never did make no sense. This is just the writer recounting what happened based on court documents. He was arrested and charged with 3 counts of third-degree assault, 1 count of second-degree harassment, and 1 count of aggravated harassment, all misdemeanors. Typically on such charges, a defendant would settle to prevent going to trial, but Majors insisted on his innocence, and his attorney said that his ex-girlfriend was the aggressor in the incident, even going so far as to file a cross-complaint against her, which the Manhattan DA's office declined to prosecute. I want to go over this, and I pointed it out at the time, but I pointed it out before there was a verdict. This woman accused him of abusing her in this incident, and he went as far as to file a cross-complaint against her. It has since come out, as of yesterday, Monday, that he is on audio confessing to having, quote and unquote, aggressed this woman, by which she responds, "You strangled me." And he says, yes, that's covered under aggressed. Like he's being a smartass with her. Days after, again, he strangled her and banged her head on the floor. Like at this point, that's fact. Some point before this incident, the one that he ended up for trial for, he had strangled this woman and banged her head on the floor. And then in a different incident in which the police get involved and it goes to trial, he goes so far as to file a cross complaint against her. He filed a cross complaint against his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend at the time, after he had once strangled her and banged her head into a marble floor. This nigga, that's some shit. I keep repeating it because I keep trying to process how fucking fucked up that is. The girl that you once strangled and then bangs her head into a marble floor, she has to show up to court every day. And you, when you show up to court, you show up every day with a Bible under your arm and Meagan Good by your side. You showed up to trial with your new chick to rub it in this girl's face. Niggas. Jesus. I'm going to read this because it plays into what we're going to discuss next, the Rolling Stone piece. The writer talks about the British blonde ex-girlfriend, her testimony, and it says she testified that Majors had a violent temper and that he had slipped into, quote, rage and aggression during their relationship. Text messages between the two of them that were entered into evidence painted a portrait of a volatile relationship. In a series of messages from September 2022, this is the strangulation, bang your head on the marble floor incident. 6 months before the car altercation, the couple were communicating about headaches Jabari said she was having. Majors texted Jabari, quote, "I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something." Who the fuck texts like this? We're not in Shakespearean times. He does. Man's a fucking weirdo. The facts of that September 2022 incident were not further detailed for the jury. The jury ended up splitting its verdict, convicting Majors of one count of misdemeanor third-degree assault and one count of second-degree harassment, but acquitting him of two other counts of assault and aggravated harassment. Essentially, they seemed to believe that Majors had, in fact, caused Jabari's injuries, but that he hadn't intended to injure her. And then THR notes that Majors did an interview with ABC News before his sentencing, which everyone in the world was like, who does an interview before his sentencing? Majors said of Jabari that he had, quote, been reckless with her heart, but that he had never struck a woman, ever. The March 17th audio seems to say otherwise. The next part of this article, are we almost to the end? No, we're just halfway through. It talks about Major's body being a key part of his success. It talks about all the nice things he does with cast and crew. I'm sorry, I'm just reading all this stuff now with this audio out. I mean, it was bad enough with all the stuff before because like many women have accused him of abuse. It talks about how he was on set. He gave gifts to the cast and crew. He got them a shaved ice truck. He brought pies. This just strikes me as classic manipulation. If you talk to people who've been in abusive relationships, many of them will tell you one of the hardest things was getting help because the abuser was so wonderful and nice and people just loved them. They were such a great person. So when you come and say like, hey, like he's been hurting me, like he's either talking to me crazy or he's been physically abusing me, people are like, no, it couldn't be. Like I could never see that person doing that. And it's not because they never would. It's because like they hide that side of themselves. They intentionally are on their best behavior with other people, specifically so when the person they're abusing tries to speak up, people won't believe them. It's all very intentional. It's manipulative as fuck. THR does note, I think this is responsible, there is always a gulf between the persona people show the world and the human being they are in private. And Major's professionalism on sets doesn't disprove the allegations of his behavior in past romantic relationships. But many who have worked with Major spoke of their shock when the news of his arrest broke, their sense that the allegations didn't align with their personal experiences of him. THR also contacted two ex-girlfriends who had given pretrial statements to prosecutors, one of whom alleged emotional abuse and one that said Majors had been physically abusive. One of them said she dated him for 2 years and they were students at Yale Drama School. She detailed multiple incidents of controlling behavior, including Majors dictating where she could go and who she could socialize with and making threatening statements. The other woman, who was engaged to Majors from 2015 to 2019, did not respond to a request for comment. It says the judge in Majors' trial did not allow either of their statements. THR also notes that Majors is not the first actor to face allegations of domestic violence and that many before him went on to continued career opportunities, Mel Gibson being one, Christian Slater, Josh Brolin, who eventually got the Thanos role. Police dropped the case after Lane, his wife, told them she didn't want to press charges. And then he went on to enjoy a career resurgence. THR notes there are differences between these cases and Majors, including the pre-Me Too era in which these arrests took place, the ones I just mentioned. It said there's also the fact that these actors are all white. Asked if he believes that race is a factor in the way his story is unfolding, Majors says, quote, "My journey is my journey, and it doesn't benefit me to compare." It talks about how he met Meagan Good. They were at the Ebony Power 100 Gala, November 2022. He says he was walking out of a unisex bathroom and she was walking in. Good said that she had seen a lot of his work and she said, quote, "This kid is super talented." She said, "I remember thinking Hollywood is a strange town and when you're new to it, you don't know who to trust or what's what. I just want to say something and affirm him." As Majors remembers it, she said to me, "I see you. I really love what you're doing. Keep going." I stood up straight and said, "Yes, ma'am." We just looked at each other and that was that. And I didn't stop thinking about it. He says they communicated as friends, the relationship turning romantic in the months after his March 2023 arrest. So wait, he got arrested for beating his girlfriend, and that was the point at which she decided, yeah, we should start dating? Something got to be wrong with the girl. Someone tipped off TMZ that they were at a movie theater together in LA. Do they both not realize they're famous, like with recognizable faces? Like I could see Meagan Good from across the room and know it's Meagan Good. Him too. But both of them are mega famous. Like Megan's been famous since she was a kid. We know what she looked like. And then this dude was in Marvel films. Like y'all thought the two celebrities, one of them who, is accused of crazy shit, could go out together in LA and nobody was going to notice? I guess I didn't think somebody would call TMZ, but like, nigga. She said, we didn't plan to start dating. We didn't plan to be seen out together. But once we were in a relationship, it was like, hey, this is what's happening. This is a good journalist. They asked her why she stayed with Majors and supported him publicly during the trial. She says, I'm going to read you the quote. People tend to move out of the way out of concern for their careers or their reputations. To me, that's not real love. If you know someone and if you believe in someone, it's not conditional. It ain't got to be conditional, but you ain't got to like throw yourself on the goddamn fire to burn up with them. Another example, I'm like, okay, like you want to ride and die for this dude. Like now he look crazy and you look crazy too. Before it was like, oh, Megan, we love Megan. Like she married this guy. She got a divorce. But like, Megan is family. All good, Megan. And now people looking at her like she crazy. Like, what you doing, girl? Like on the podcast, I've taken an official stance that, we all make poor decisions. Always sis, hey sis, if you want to come home, we've left the light on. If you need us to come get you, say the word. We ride at dawn. I think shaming her or making her feel stupid or less than if she's in a situation where she's being mistreated, where she may be being abused mentally, physically, otherwise, can't be financially because the man ain't got no money. If you are being abused and you want to get out, what you need is help. You don't need someone shaming you. That is the entire reason that I take the stance that I do on Meagan Good. I also recognize that in speaking about abuse is very prevalent. It happens to a lot of women. And me sitting on a platform saying that like, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb, like, why are you with this person is not helpful in any way. You did whatever you did. You made the decisions that whatever you made. But if you're ready to leave, you could come home and we left the light on. It's providing a safe space for people. Please believe I actually do have stronger opinions on this relationship than what I say publicly, but it's not helpful. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying to be better than I was. I'm trying to grow. My private thoughts may be something different, but at least knowing the difference between what needs to be said publicly and privately, that is growth. Acknowledge that. Shit. It says in the years since Major's sentencing, he says he has built a quiet life in the Hollywood Hills with Good. They go hiking with their 4 dogs. They work out. They watch movies together. And they note that Majors has an 11-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. He says he has continued to pay the same level of child support he paid when his career was booming, thanks to residual checks and help from friends. He says, when my dad split, we didn't get anything. And in this moment, I was like, my daughter is not going to want for anything. I didn't want to sacrifice her way of living. I didn't want her to feel a big shift. It says Majors lost his penthouse apartment. I think it was like a triplex, if I recall, in New York. Was it in Meatpacking or Tribeca? It was in a good part of the city, I remember. THR notes within 6 months of his arrest, he had diminished the nest egg he built by half. He says, growing up poor, I had that muscle memory. I was used to getting out there, finding a way. But it's actually harder to find a way when you're trapped in notoriety. You can't get out there and just work. I said fitness is a big part of his life, and that he and Good and 4 men that he trains with daily, they're going to start an online wellness platform. There are also plans for a clothing line and supplements. He says he's been reading scripts and taking meetings, including on a superhero film project. He can kiss that goodbye. He says no relation to the big guys, DC or Marvel, but it's a pretty wicked story. He's also attached to an independent revenge thriller. He says on the resumption of his acting career, sometimes it feels like it's not going to happen, and sometimes it feels like we start next week. This next part is more about magazine dreams. People who note that Majors faces an uphill battle rebuilding his acting career. They said if Magazine Dreams comes out and it's a giant hit, then everybody reassesses. Maybe not at the studios, maybe not at the public companies, but the independent people. You look at a guy like Jonathan Majors. Is he talented? Absolutely. But is there somebody else who can fit the bill? Probably. There are a lot of really talented people out there. and there are fewer and fewer projects. So with the exception of a very small echelon, people are replaceable. This is from a casting director who didn't want to go on record with their name. THR just describes them as a prominent casting director. They said Black actors, this is no secret, have been held to a different standard than white ones in Hollywood. Like other marginalized people, you have to be in better behavior. She says, I kind of have a guess at who that is. She good people. I ain't gonna drag her name into this shit. She ain't want her name dragged in it. She told them she would speak, but she said they couldn't use her name. But I think I can guess who that is. Ain't but so many Black women casting directors. THR asked Jonathan what his life will look like 5 years from now. He says, me and Meagan, maybe a couple kids, and my 11-year-old daughter, happy, at ease, not worried about anything. He says professionally, he hopes he will be acting. He says, do I hope to make more movies? Absolutely. That's my intention, but that's not my call. I don't have a studio, and I've given up control. He says, asked what he would say to the entertainment industry today, Major said, I would tell them I'm still learning, and I would thank them for participating in my growth. There's a note. This story appears in the March 19 issue of the Hollywood Reporter magazine. They dropped it on Friday. Rolling Stone dropped their article on the 17th yesterday. The issue ain't even got a chance to get in print and get on stands before the cover star became irrelevant. Damn. Not damn for him. Damn for the situation all the way around. He deserves everything he gets. I've seen many people speaking about this audio that just dropped, and they're like, oh my God, like it's so conniving. Rolling Stone has something after him. They're trying to tear down the Black man. Somebody was being very conniving and calculated. They waited until his new movie was about to drop. They waited until he, hired the right publicist, and he spent a year working on his comeback just to drop this audio and just derail everything. Yeah, he fucked somebody over really bad. They got it out for him. Somebody is scorned. Somebody was very calculating. Somebody did hold on to this tape until the most opportune moment to destroy what was left of him. And if he did it, he did it. Them being calculated about the release of the audio doesn't make the audio not real. Also, them being calculated is not more important than the fact at this point that he choked out old girl and banged her head on a marble floor. Not even just a wood floor. There's a reason I keep emphasizing that it's marble. Marble is heavy as shit. Banging your head on a wood floor versus banging your head on a marble floor, like, obviously don't bang anybody's head on the floor. But if you had to choose, no one chooses the marble. All right, we're going to Rolling Stone. Oh, we're not going to do Jay-Z today. I said the important part with the girls on tape saying that the lawyer made her say those things about Jay-Z. How is this man not being disbarred for this shit? All right, we're on Rolling Stone. An exclusive. Headline, Jonathan Majors admits to strangling ex-girlfriend in newly unearthed audio. Newly unearthed. I.e., somebody had this shit all along and decided to drop it now. It's like the same person who had that Cassie tape all along. It's not like nobody had it. Somebody had to go look it up. Somebody sat on that tape for a good 10 years and decided to drop it when they felt it could be most effective to damage Diddy. Finish him. This audio for Jonathan Majors, it's a finish him moment. We're on Rolling Stone. Took me a minute to look it up. Why am I not subscribed to Rolling Stone? I feel like because half the time it's free and then the other half of the time they want to charge. In general, liberal media is like that. And I was like, Republicans and MAGA can access anything for free. And all the informative, I'm not just talking about entertainment stuff, but I mean newspapers, Washington Post, New York Times, they want you to pay to access the information. I mean, it's a barrier. I know it's necessary. They got to keep their operations going, but it's a barrier to getting the information out there. Correct information, informed, fact-checked information. It's important, but not the point. The point is, reading on Rolling Stone, March 17, 2025, i.e. yesterday. First sentence, Jonathan Majors admitted to strangling an ex-girlfriend in a previously unreleased audio recording obtained by Rolling Stone. The conversation was captured in the aftermath of a days-long fight between Majors and his then-girlfriend in September 2022. The Marvel actor had been living with his girlfriend in London as he filmed the second season of Disney Plus series Loki. that how you pronounce it? Irrelevant. When he allegedly became angry at her. According to a since settled civil lawsuit filed by her last April, she alleges Majors slammed her into a car, dragged her back inside their home, and strangled her. The unearthed audio tape captures the girlfriend, Grace, confronting Majors about the alleged attack in the following days. I'm ashamed I've ever, Majors begins, before cutting himself off. I've never been aggressive with a woman before. I never aggressed a woman. I aggressed you. Don't try to intellectualize strangling somebody. What the fuck? She responds to him, you strangled me and pushed me against the car. Yes, all those things are under aggressed. Yeah, that's never happened to me. What precisely happened to you? This man and this woman are having a conversation about how he strangled her and pushed her into the car. He aggressed her. And then he says, that's never happened to me. How the fuck are you centering yourself in a situation where you strangled somebody? Like, what? He says, that's never happened to me. She says, because I said something sarcastically in your eyes. He responds, well, clearly it's more than that. She says, something inside of you. And he says, yeah, towards you. You strangled her, said, this has never happened to me. She says, it's something inside of you. And he says, yeah, towards you. Nigga, you're a demon. You're a goddamn demon. This is disgusting. Many people on the internet have been pointing out that, like, in nearly 100% of domestic violence cases where a woman is killed, the man has strangled her at some point. It's like a precursor to murder. This man is evil. He's fucking evil. And for the people who are like, oh my God, Demetria, why are you going so hard against this man? It's not like he strangled you. He strangled a woman. It don't have to be me. It don't have to be a black woman. He strangled somebody. What y'all not going to do, what I'm not going to allow folks to do is downplay this. It's like, oh, it's just, it happens. It might. Unfortunately, it's surprisingly common. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dead women at the hands of their alleged lovers. This is serious shit. Rolling Stone notes that both an attorney and agent for Majors did not immediately respond to requests for comment. An attorney for Jabari, Grace, the British blonde, declined to comment. Rolling Stone here talks about the court case from last year, the same one that was detailed in the Hollywood Reporter story. We don't have to go over it. They do mention here the text messages when Majors was pleading with his girlfriend not to go to the hospital. This is the same September 2022 fight that there's audio about. And then Rolling Stone also notes here that one of Majors' ex-girlfriends, actress Emma Duncan, she's also claimed that Majors once choked her and then in another argument threatened to strangle and kill her. Majors' attorney said that that never happened. But when the ex-girlfriend, the British blonde, sued Majors last March for defamation, assault and battery, and malicious prosecution, the complaint gave her full account of the alleged September 2022 attack. I'm going to read it to you. It's bad. So this is the trigger warning. I'm also going to play Majors audio. So just consider this as a trigger warning for everything going after this. It says the prolonged fight allegedly began when Majors became upset with his girlfriend for going to a pub with a friend and then having the friend back over to their house. It says the fighting continued over the next few days, with Majors admitting in a separate audio recording, one that was played at trial, that he had a temper and that he expected his girlfriend to hold herself to the standards of Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama. On September 20th, 2022, the situation escalated. It says Majors, quote, became physically aggressive. He pushed his girlfriend so hard that it bruised her backside. She attempted to leave the house. He picked her up in the air and threw her against the hood of the car. She began shouting for help. He forcefully grabbed her, placing her in a headlock, and put his hand over her mouth to prevent someone from hearing her cries for help. He brought her back to the house and held his hands around her neck, stating that he wanted to kill her and that he was going to kill her. He started hitting her head against the marble floor while strangling her until she felt she could no longer breathe. He later texted her and pleaded with her not to go to the hospital. This is when he wrote the part, "I feel you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you can actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something." That's what I read before. It said some of her responses were redacted during the trial, but in the lawsuit, it says she went on to tell Majors, "Why would the man I love throw me around, strangle me, and look at my eyes and say he hates me and wants to kill me? I'm reminded of what happened each waking second because I can barely move without pain. I also have to heal physically. That's not me stating other than facts. I have endured a bad head injury and I feel unwell. I have brain fog. I have a constant ringing headache." Sounds like a concussion, but I'm not a doctor. I have had a concussion before, though, not because of anything abusive. Also, Rolling Stone notes, and I will do the same, Majors has denied being physically abusive to his ex-girlfriend. The Good Morning America interview, April 2024, he insisted, quote, "I have never hit a woman." And he also added, quote, "My hands have never struck a woman, ever." The audio determined that was a lie.
He strangled me because he didn't get the car.
Yes, all those things are under arrest.
Yeah. Because I said something sarcastically. If in your eyes.
Clearly, it's more than that.
He hasn't released a statement at this time. It'll take me a couple hours to edit. If there's anything to add, then I'll include it. Otherwise, we're done. Think I've covered everything, because right now this episode is long as hell. I'm going to edit it down so it's palatable. I can't listen to my own voice for that long. Like, y'all really want to hear it? There's personal life stuff to share, but we can share that next week. There's nothing pressing. It's not like I'm getting married or anything. That was a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. All right. Bye. So that was a random joke. I made it before I saw the updated news. If you have not heard, Meagan Good and Jonathan Majors got married earlier today. The day after Rolling Stone released audio of him admitting that he strangled his ex-girlfriend, the one that he was in court about last year, the same girlfriend that he was dating right before and perhaps overlapping with Meagan Good, and she chose to hard launch her relationship with him during that court case where he was accused and found guilty of harming his ex-girlfriend. She married him. Let me give you the facts. Entertainment Tonight had the exclusive. I'm reading this on Vulture. Entertainment Tonight only has the video. I need to read it. They were wed by Major's mother. She is a pastor. That came up in the interview with the Hollywood Reporter. And Megan's mom was the witness. Those are the only people who were present, not Megan's sister. My first thought is he's in hot water again. He's in a major crisis. As of Sunday, it looked like there was a possibility of him getting his career back. That's all been curved after this audio came out. To me, it gives desperation. It gives marry me to prove your loyalty to me, that you're really with me, or she wants to do it to prove that she's ride or die. Like, this makes no sense. As many people have responded, Meagan Good is a beautiful woman. She could have the pick of anybody's man that she wanted, single or otherwise. And she chose a man that was found guilty of causing injury to his ex-girlfriend. And then there's other girlfriends, as we detailed previously in this episode, other women who have come forward. And at least one ex says that, like, yes, he choked me out once, and yes, he threatened to kill me. And she chose to marry him. I can't make sense of it. First and foremost, I hope she's not getting her ass beat. And equally, I hope that she has a prenup, because he ain't got no monies. I hope he doesn't run her coin, because she's been working forever. I wish you could see my face. This is when we need to be doing video, because I really have no words. I don't understand the logic. Some people have pointed out that Jim Brown was her godfather, NFL Jim Brown, who was known for beating the brakes off a bunch of women too. So maybe this is normalized in her life. Because I remember when Jim Brown passed, she wrote this really beautiful, heartfelt letter to him about how much she loved him and how important he was as her godfather and what role he played in her life, the domestic violence seemed to be a non-factor. And just so we're clear about Jim Brown's domestic violence, I just did a quick search. It says his legacy includes serial abuse of women. She had no seemingly read the room about that situation. So here we are. DV is clearly not a deal breaker for her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been dating Jonathan Majors. She wouldn't have hard launched her relationship during his trial. And she wouldn't have married him the day after audio came out of him admitting to strangling and, again, banging his ex-girlfriend's head on a marble floor. It's not a deal breaker for her. I'm going to continue to say what I've been saying. Sis, we here. It's not even an if. When you need to leave, we've left the light on. You can come home. Some of us might look at you crazy, but you are always welcome to come home. I wish her well. I hope she don't get her ass beat. I don't even know what to say. As women, hold on. First and foremost, because I criticize other people for doing this, men should not beat women. Full stop, period. The onus of abuse is on the abuser, not the person who is a victim of abuse. Full stop. In addition, as women, we have to make smarter decisions in who we choose for our partners. Taking up with a man, dating him, getting engaged to him, marrying him, when he has a history of abuse, and that he doesn't take accountability for on top of that. I'm with the ex-girlfriend, the Hollywood Reporter interview. Okay, he does 52 weeks of this therapy, counseling, whatever. Then what? How do I know that he changed? This quickie shotgun wedding situation, the day after an audio of him confessing to choking to somebody, getting married. I mean, his mama was there and her mama was there too. It says to me, don't nobody in that room have good sense. It wouldn't surprise me at all that every woman in that room was used to getting their ass beat. Because this shit just don't make no damn sense. I wish her the best. That's all I got for it. I don't think this ends well, unfortunately. I want to be wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he's a better person now than he was when he was strangling that girl and banging her head on a marble floor. I don't know if that's something that gets fixed. Good luck, Meagan. Good luck. I'm done.